We've seen a couple of different database views in this course so far, but now I want to actually show you all of them, and I want to tell you which ones you can best use for which use cases. So if you want to see that, then please watch the video. And if not, you can also gladly skip to the next video. This is definitely not a necessary video, but it's nice to have if you want to get some inspiration and see what all these different views are. We'll start off with the database view that we probably have used the most often so far, which is the table view. This is my preferred view for everything where there's a lot of data, lots of numbers and stuff like that. So where I have to do lots of calculations. And also when I want to actually edit a database. So that's basically the view I always use if I want to add properties, change up things, and do things like that. So this is what I use it for. And other common use cases include things like revenue trackers, grade calculators, or finances and expense trackers for your personal expenses. Next, we have the board view, which we used before as well. And this is usually best for things like project management or for CRM tools. So all the tools where you want to have different categories to sort things into, and you basically have a set structure to move an element from one place to the next. So for example, for a CRM, this would be having a lead and then a prospect and calling with them, having them in the negotiation phase. And you can really see how you can use this as a project. I actually also use this for my online courses, which I showed you in one of the previous videos. So my online course planning board is basically just that, a board view where I have these different sections, and each of these sections is one of the sections in my online course. Next is the list view, and this is just a really simple view that just lists out all of the data, basically like a table, but it doesn't show as many properties. So it's much simpler, and therefore in many cases, I think it's actually too simple. The only use cases that I really like it for would be for notes databases. So this is something we could have used in the meeting notes database as well. But besides from that, I rarely use it for anything else. The gallery view is great for everything that's really visual. So recipe databases are a prime example of that. I also use it for my web design inspiration database. So stuff like that is basically exactly what the gallery view is made for. Usually you don't want to use it if you don't have any visual elements in there. Sometimes it can make sense, but mostly it's for really, visual things. Now we briefly touched on the calendar view as well, and this is great for a lot of different use cases because it's really universal. So you can use it for task management, to basically plan which tasks you want to do on which day. In this case, in the case of a recipe database, you could also actually use this to kind of schedule out your meals. So to see which meals you're going to cook on which day, for example. You can use it to keep track of birthdays and of other family events and stuff like that. So it can really be used for anything. There's no limit to that. A content calendar is also really a useful tool that you can use it for. So you get the idea. There's lots and lots of things you can do with Notion calendars. And now we come to the last view that we have in Notion, and this is the one that I personally use the least. It's the timeline view, which is a way of kind of showing different database entries in a timeline. Now this can be really helpful, don't get me wrong, and it's especially helpful if you do project management inside of Notion. So you could have a database where you have all these different projects set up and you kind of see, how long they take. So this works with date ranges, but in this case, obviously it makes no sense because it's a recipe database. But yeah, so it kind of helps you to see, when certain projects are due to end and when you can start new things. So kind of helps, for example, agencies see how much more work they can take on. But since I don't run an agency or anything like that, and I don't work in a team, this is something that I personally don't use that often. But again, this is completely up to you, and it really depends on what you prefer and also what you actually do, what your company does. So yeah, feel free to do whatever you want. This is by no means like a rule or something. You can do whatever you want. And the great thing about Notion databases is that you can also use different views for the same data. So for example, if you work in a team and some people prefer the board view, but others might prefer the gallery view or the timeline view, then you can add all three of those and everybody can work with the view that they enjoy the most.